Good evening and welcome to Bible Time with Tanner and Aaron. We're going to be going through the Gospel of John in this series, and our first theme is on light and darkness as explained throughout the Gospel of John.
Right, so as we're going to see as we go through this short series is that there's a lot of theological concepts that are displayed throughout the Gospel of John in the form of themes. So we'll see the theme of light versus darkness. We'll see the theme of the world and how we interact within the world. You can also see the theme of water throughout the Gospel of John. And the important thing is to realize that these are not only themes, but we can extend these themes to theological concepts that the author of the Gospel of John wanted us to kind of get into our heads and to be able to apply to our lives. So we're going to start off with a verse on the theme of the light throughout the Gospel of John in the first chapter that really kind of sums it up. So
this comes from verse 4 and 5, and I'm reading from the NIV. In him was life, and that life was the light of all mankind. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it.
Right. So to start, we see two concepts, the light and the darkness. And more importantly, we see the fact that this light concept is more powerful than the dark concept in whichever way you want to read that, because the darkness has not overcome the light, and the light can shine through and penetrate the darkness. Okay? And we also see an identification of Jesus with that light. In chapter 8, verse 12, Jesus makes a statement that he is the light of the world. It's one of the I am statements found throughout John. So we see Jesus identifying with this concept of light in chapter 1 and in chapter 8. So Jesus is the concept of light, and we see that he is conquering this concept of darkness. Okay? Now the important thing to keep in mind is that these concepts of light and darkness are kind of like semi-tangible throughout the Gospel of John. They're not a literal person that is interacted with by the characters, but they are concepts that characters throughout the story, a few that I'm going to talk about are Nicodemus, Judas, Peter, these characters that fluidly move between the concepts of light and darkness. Okay, so for instance, Nicodemus, it is clearly stated in the Gospel of John in chapter 3 that Nicodemus comes to Jesus at night. And so this kind of exemplifies his state of mind, his presence of not being fully in the light, not being fully accepting of Jesus' message, and which is why he kind of has this clouded vision of who Jesus is and why he came, and why he's so confused when Jesus introduces this concept of being reborn, which so many of us Christians today just hear and know exactly what that means. But Nicodemus is displayed as this character who is in the dark, and later we'll see him sort of fluidly move out of that, questionably, as he's one of the ones that takes Jesus off the cross. But most importantly is to identify that he is identified as being in the darkness when he first questions Jesus. We also see Judas being identified in the darkness. There's a specific line in chapter 13 of the Gospel that says, "It was night," and that line is read directly after Judas is sent out to go on his way to betray Jesus. So again, we see this character of Judas literally walking in darkness, literally, and we're supposed to read that also figuratively in this theme that Judas is walking away from God. He's not in the presence of God. And then again, throughout we see these characters interacting in darkness throughout the Gospel. In Peter's denial scene, the arrest scene of Jesus, all these taking place at night in the dark, people interacting in darkness against the light of the world, which is Jesus. Okay, so we also see, I want to point out one more instance throughout the Gospel, and that is the woman at the well in Samaria. And it's not literally stated that she is in the dark or in the light, but we do know that it's daytime at the time of this interaction between her and Jesus. And the cool thing about when she interacts with Jesus is that we can see her sort of conceptually stepping into the light and asking Jesus religious questions and questions about his being in general. But we also see her given the chance to step out of the light when Jesus challenges her in the fact that she's had 5 husbands and is not living with one that she is married to now. But we see this lady, this woman at the well, persisting in staying in the light and following Jesus' concept. And I believe that she is an example for what we're called to do. So today we're still interacting with these concepts of light and darkness, but we are called to pursue the light. So my challenge to you today, with this theme in mind and this theological concept in mind, is are you in the light now? And if not, if so, are you tempted to leave and go to the darkness? And if you are not in the light now, what can you do to get there? So, and that'll wrap up what we have to say for today. Next time we'll do something with, I believe, the world and that sort of theological concept throughout the Gospel of John. Thanks, guys.